Okay, good evening. I'd like to call the regular school committee meeting to order. Today is September 22nd, 2020, and we are starting our meeting at 7:06 p.m. Pursuant to Governor Baker's emergency order modifying the state's open meeting law issued March 12, 2020, the September 22nd, 2020 meeting of the PB School Committee will be held in the library of the Higgins Middle School for school committee members, and we have our full school committee today: Superintendent Dr. Vidala, Assistant Superintendent Dr. Lord, and Central Office Administrators as requested by the Superintendent. And as he usually is, Joe Scanlon, our school business manager, is here for today's meeting. In accordance with the Governor's order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, the regular meeting of the PB School Committee will not allow in-person attendance to members of the public, but every effort will be made for the public to adequately access the meeting in real time via technological means. Alternative public access to this meeting will be provided in the following manner. We are being broadcast live by PB Access TV, as we always are. Also, this real-time public participation can be addressed to the PB School Committee utilizing Zoom virtual meeting software for remote access. The application will allow users to view the meeting and make a comment during public participation. So as we have been doing now for a number of months, those that are watching through Facebook or some other platform, please raise your hand. And Dr. Vidala will acknowledge you and certainly give you the opportunity to speak when we go to public participation, which should be in about, after a few items. Our meeting minutes are also being recorded by our recording secretary, Leanna Harris. I'd like to first start with a call to order, and I wanted to turn it over to school committee member Brandy Carpenter for a special acknowledgement for our moment of silence. Mrs. Carpenter?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to dedicate this moment of silence to a beautiful, outstanding woman that recently passed away, Julie Dacey. She was a loving wife, mother, sister, friend. I would like you to keep in your thoughts her husband, Jeff, her daughter, Janelle, and her son, Ryan. She was a graduate of Peabody High School. She was absolutely amazing, wonderful person. And she was also a para at the Higgins Middle School for the last 5 years. And I would just like you to keep her and her family in your thoughts during this moment of silence, please.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Carpenter, for that. So everybody could please stand and join us in that moment of silence. Okay, thank you. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd like to go next to minutes. We have a couple of school committee meeting minutes. First one is the September 8th, 2020 budget meeting. I'd like to open up that item for a vote.
Motion to accept and approve budget meeting minutes of September 8th, 2020.
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Carpenter. You've heard the motion for approval of the minutes of September 8th, 2020 budget meeting. That motion was seconded by Mrs. Dunn. Roll call vote, please.
Yes.
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 I'd like to make a motion to approve the regular school committee meeting minutes of September 15th, 2020.
Second.
Okay. You've heard the motion by Mrs. Carpenter for approval of the September 15th, 2020 regular school committee meeting minutes. That motion was seconded by Mr. Arnottis. Discussion on the motion. Mrs. Dunn?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a correction, at the top of page 4 of those minutes, the word faculty is used, faculty handbook, and it was actually the family handbook. I'd just like to ask for that adjustment.
And that was page 4?
4 of that week's minutes.
Okay,
yes.
yep. Excellent. Thank you, Mrs. Dunn. That change will be noted. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Terrific, thank you. Next, we'll go to approval of bills. We have a couple of warrants. Mrs. Carpenter, I'll turn it over to you.
I'd like to make a motion to approve warrant number 4582 in the amount of $28,160.90 dated September 22nd, subject to audit.
Second.
Heard the motion by Mrs. Carpenter for approval of warrant 4582. That motion has been seconded by Mr. Olympio. On the motion, any questions? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve warrant number 4585 dated September 22nd, 2020, in the amount of $824,301.84, subject to audit.
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Carpenter. You've heard the motion for approval of warrant 4585. That motion was seconded by Mr. Olympio. Any questions? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote, please, on warrant 4585.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Carpenter. Next item is continued business. Mrs. Dunn, I'd like to turn it over to you for an update on the Weld School MSBA project.
We are still preparing for our next monthly meeting, which will take place in October, and currently the budget is being discussed and the plans are being I don't mean to say streamlined. The plans that we're working with the designer on are being more fully fleshed out for discussion. So this is going to be a really interesting time where we're going to actually see a lot of ideas on what they think can be done on this project. So the educational plan is being discussed and worked on. The financing is being discussed and worked on. The drawings, it's a busy time. So we'll have more news come next month.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Dunn, as always, for that work. Okay, Superintendent's report. Dr. Vidal, I'd like to turn it over to you for your report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before I begin, I did want to acknowledge, through the new superintendent's induction program, I have been assigned a coach. She's here today. We have her up on the screen here virtually. Dr. Mary Burke. Dr. Burke and I have known each other for some time. She was the superintendent of the Chelsea Public Schools and was the 2017 Superintendent of the Year for Massachusetts. She is excellent. We've known each other for quite some time. Very lucky to have her as my coach this year. We meet weekly and discuss, just strategy and some of the things that we're going, and she's an excellent resource. So in my presentation, I do have a little bit about her bio, and I'll say a little bit more, but I did want to just let everyone know that Dr. Burke is here. She's participating as an attendee, so she just wanted to wave to everyone and say hello. And I'll put her in the attendee room, but she is here. I just wanted to acknowledge her, and during my report, I'll bring that up a little bit more. So thank you, Dr. Burke. So the first item on the superintendent's report is the superintendent's entry plan. Okay. So as always, I've put the acronym of HOPE on the screen. This is our theme for the year: having high expectations, leading with optimism, personalizing learning, and having equity and access for all students. So this is really our theme for the year for Peabody Public Schools. It's going to drive our decisions for every student every day. We were very fortunate to welcome students into the buildings last Thursday and Friday. Dr. Lord and I were able to visit all 10 schools, 5 on Thursday and 5 on Friday, and it was just great to see the kids in the building. The teachers have done a phenomenal job welcoming students in. The buildings were safe. They were utilizing the proper protocols and the safety protocols that we've put in place. And yesterday we were able to welcome all of our kindergarten students and our pre-K students in. So a lot of positivity that has gone into it. So I just want to acknowledge everyone for that. As a new superintendent, I do have an induction plan and an entry plan into the district. This year has been like no other, but one thing I am doing is participating in the new superintendent's induction program. And so the new superintendent induction program is a partnership with the Department of Education and our organization for superintendents, MASS. It's designed to be a 3-year program with content days and coaching. The focus is on research and best practices and deep collaboration with colleagues. So I'm in the program with a number of first-year superintendents, but we also have a number of retired superintendents that participate. So year 1 focuses on the entry plan and developing strong relationships with stakeholders, and then years 2 and 3 sharpens the focus on teaching, learning, and transforming the district through the vision. And so making sure that we have positive outcomes and strengthening instructional leadership, not only from the superintendent lens, but across the district. So earlier we met my coach this year, Dr. Mary Burke. Mary was a superintendent for 11 years in Chelsea, and so she lived in Chelsea and was also a superintendent, so we share that, where I'm a resident of Peabody, so I think her experience and knowledge is excellent. I have the utmost respect for her. She's got 37 years of educational experience, and highlighted by the 2017 Massachusetts Superintendent of the Year. She's an excellent resource, and she's a great person to have on my side. She's currently the liaison for, or the Director of Government Affairs for MASS, so she's still involved, and she's really knowledgeable about policy, and she's our go-to person at the State House. So we're very lucky to have her. So in terms of my entry plan, we're looking, Dr. Lord and I have really worked together to make this seamless transition, and the plan will go from July 1st through June 30th of next year, and just really focusing on building relationships, listening and learning, and planning for continuous improvement. So those are the 3 big areas that we're looking at. So in terms of building relationships, my key activities will be, to meet with the school committee and have, individual meetings with school committee members, identify the priority areas and clarify the roles, that I have in the district and what is expected of me. Develop an understanding for all the subcommittees and understanding, what the functions are and how we can continue to support students through the function of the subcommittees, and work with the school committee to establish goals for me and expectations for my communication and support throughout the district. Also, in terms of building relationships, we think about internal stakeholders, so informal meetings with central office staff, the technology, special ed administrator, the business manager, HR director, principals, directors, our union representatives, our facilities people, and again, the people who are internal to the organization. My goal is to visit every school. So in the beginning when I did it, we said twice during the summer. I think I was in every school almost twice a week during the summer, making sure the facilities were up to date, conducting virtual meet and greets with opportunities for staff and students and parents. So we continue to have opportunities to engage parents and students along with the number of meetings we've had with staff. And then also thinking about external stakeholders. So weekly meetings with the mayor, the police chief, our school resource officers, fire chief, DPW, our public health department. I met with the Rotary Club, I met with the PBD Education Foundation recently, local businesses. I've met with a number of the city councilors already, and other members of the community. So, Dr. Lord and I have talked about, maybe doing some community forums with the mayor, and seeing, as we enter into the next phase of once school is up and running, really getting some feedback from people. How's it going? How can we improve? Because we know that continuous improvement is a big thing. So a big part of my personal reentry is listening and learning. So really having the data collection process where I've reviewed our contracts and our handbooks, and so all the relevant documents, the school committee policies. So I began that in March, as soon as I came on board, really reviewing the DESI reports. We were able to get the NEASC report, which helped inform our decisions, and our interview process for our high school principal, reviewing the contracts and the achievement data. Conducting school visits is something that I want to do once school is up and running, and really having small focus groups and meeting with the faculty, the teachers, parent groups, and support staff, really interviewing everyone to see what's working well, what we can improve on, and then doing some individual interviews with school personnel and the city departments, as well as our community organizations and our parent groups. I know so in October, Mr. Olympio and I will be meeting with the special ed parent group. We have planned to meet with the ELL parent group, as well as the PTOs and other parent groups. We'll also be conducting surveys. So part of the surveys will be about the remote learning and the reopening plans, but also sort of the future of the district and where they see my role as superintendent and where we want the district to go. So not just strictly related to COVID, but also understanding that my entry plan is hopefully for a long time, and figuring out what the long-term goals are for the district. And then finally, the third part of the entry plan is planning for continuous improvement. So analyzing the data, developing our district improvement plans, sharing the findings with the school committee and the community, and then utilizing that report to drive the decision making. So the next item that we have on the agenda is our goals for Dr. Lord and I, and thinking about the strategic plan and all the work that has gone into that. So that is really at the crux of the superintendent's evaluation, and the goals that we have for the district is built on the work that has already been done. And my hope is that we take the information that we gain this year through my entry plan and the listening tour that we'll be doing, and take that and really help to enhance and contribute more to the strategic plan. So we've always talked about the strategic plan as a living, breathing document that will be posted on the school website, and we want to be able to, every year, improve on the school improvement plans and improve on the strategic plan for the district, so that we make sure that we're all in alignment, and that really the parents and the other stakeholders have an opportunity to give some feedback to that. And so again, I bring up our acronym of HOPE, and this is really what we're looking at: hope for every student every day, hope for the community, and really we're going to do that by having high expectations for every student. Really taking an optimistic look at every student every day, personalizing learning. A lot of the online resources that we have are now personalizing learning all the way down to the individual student, and identifying their data and where they're at and how we can help them improve at their level. So we're looking at remediation strategies as well as enrichment, and we're doing that through equity and access. And I know that prior to me even coming on, the school committee was really focused on equity, and that is something that we want to continue to use to drive our decision making. So in terms of goals, so this kind of rolls into item number 2, I provided the school committee with a small packet with the superintendent's goals. So these would be the goals and the supporting documents. So detailed information about the entry plan. So the first goal is having an effective entry into the district and direction setting. So my goal would be by April 2021 that the district will have a broad agreement about, from all the key stakeholder groups, about the district's most critical needs, the strategies and goals that we'll need to address them effectively, and the measures that we'll use to assess the progress. So during this entire year, collecting that data will help inform the district goals moving forward for next year, and any changes that we would make to the school improvement plan and the district improvement plan. The second goal is around the theme of building a community, and what we did is we took a look at the 6 areas that we're focused on in the strategic plan, and we grouped them into 2 themes. So building a community is focused on improving effective communication, increasing community and post-secondary partnerships, and increasing attendance at school functions. And so progress will be measured by what is outlined in our current strategic plan. And then the final goal is the second theme that we developed was by combining the curriculum assessment, student support, and social emotional learning aspects of the strategic plan. And that's a goal around equity and access, and really focusing on equity and access for all students, making sure that they have equitable outcomes and that they have access. And so one of the big things that we did over the summer to take care of that was to get one-to-one Chromebooks for K through 5. So an update on that, we are looking at the end of the month to get the kindergarten and first grade tablets delivered, and we will be distributing them. Right now, all families that have requested a device have been given a loaner device in K through 5 to make sure that they do have that access. And we also have 150 mobile hotspots that we continue to hand out for anyone who needs them. So our technology will be handed out in kindergarten kindergarten and first grade within the next week or two, and then we're expecting the end of October the rest of the Chromebooks to come in, and all of our students K through 5 would then have their new devices as well. So we are looking to incorporate that, and as we get more information about the exact dates, we'll continue to update the school committee. So that's the third goal around equity and access. And again, this visual here really ties together the theme of hope and the two big ideas of building a community and equity and access, and how they create to the 6 objectives that were developed over the course of last year with our strategic plan. So that's sort of an overview of my plan for the entry plan, as well as setting the 3 district goals as part of the superintendent's evaluation. So I'll pause here for comment and discussion.
Thank you, Dr. Vidala. Any comments or questions at this point, Mrs. Dunn?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to receive and approve the superintendent's entry plan.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Dunn. You've heard the motion, seconded by Mr. Olympio. Roll call vote, please.
Well, now I got a comment.
Oh, sorry, on your motion.
You thought that was going to happen.
On your motion, Mrs. Dunn. I'll send it back to you.
I want to thank you. It's a good program entry plan, and I think this is a really very direct program. The NSIPS is wonderful, but what you've done is given us a nice, strong direction on where you want to go and how we want to go. And just wanted to tell you I appreciate it. I did have a couple questions, but they're off topic of this. It involves school councils with their school plans, and also an idea on the community forums. I saw something that made me think of an idea that you may want to explore. But I can email those to you. It's nothing major, but thank you. This was thought-provoking, and I think it's going to be a good plan.
Thank you.
Any other comments? We do have a motion, so Mrs. Harris, can we do a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Amico? Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Any other comments at this point? Okay, turn it back to you, Dr. Vidala.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the next item on the superintendent's report is the protocols for moving between models. This was something that was brought up last week from a public participation caller, and so we did do a little bit of research and wanted to address that publicly. So we had stated that if the community does go into the red, that we would go full remote. I talked to our public health department, and I still feel as though that would be the best course of action. If our community sees a spike, we continue to see positive trend, and we're heading in the right direction. People are continuing to follow the guidance and really being safe in the community. And I know that in the previous meeting that we just had, we talked about giving a lot of credit to the public health department and the community as a whole for all the work that they've done. So we still want to be vigilant, but we do want to have a plan that if it does start to go the other way, that if we went red, that we would look to go fully remote. A lot of the feedback that I've gotten is that the remote program that we are doing on Wednesday is significantly better than it was in the fall. Our teachers have had extensive training and clear expectations, and they're really trying to engage kids as best as they can. And I know that Wednesday, the first day of school, was very helpful. Tomorrow we're also looking to do a full remote day. And I think that that's a big credit to the work that is being done. We still have some kinks to work out, and I think that we continue to get feedback on that. So right now we're currently in a hybrid model, and one of the biggest challenges as we stay green, and we've been green for multiple weeks, is talking about when we could potentially go into a full in-person model. And at this time, we would not be able to go into a full in-person model with 6 feet distancing. So we currently have that guidance from the CDC and from our Department of Public Health is continuing to endorse the 6 feet guidance. So we would be recommending remaining in a hybrid model until that guidance is relaxed. So I know that there was talk about whether or not we could go into full in-person if we were green for a number of weeks, and the other safety protocols are still in place. As the community continues to use the mitigation strategies, I would not be recommending a full in-person program until we're able to bring kids closer to 6 feet so that we could fit everyone in safely. So I can pause there for discussion.
Thank you, Dr. Vidala. Any comments or questions on that item, Mrs. Carpenter?
Thank you. Just to clarify, and I'm not, I think this might be to the chair, any type of changes, should we hit red, or would we have an emergency school committee meeting before any decisions are made?
Yes, the governor's results come out every Wednesday evening, usually around 6, 7 o'clock. And if there's typically going to be a change, sometimes we've been notified ahead of time, particularly if you're going into a more difficult situation or being bumped up to another level. So, yeah, I mean, to me, that would trigger a response that we would need to make, and then we would have to call a meeting on an emergency basis. So, yeah, that's what I intend to recommend, and I think that'd be the appropriate way to go.
Yes, that would be my thought. Thank you. Just wanted to clarify.
Thank you, Mrs. Carpenter. Any other questions or comments at this point, Mr. Hockman?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Dr. Vidala. So I'm going to make a motion. I don't know if I need to do it in the form of a motion or I can just do it in the form of a request. But can you, through the chair to Dr. Vidala, provide us with information on how many students per school are currently electing to go wholly remote? Could we poll those students and ask them if we voted to change the model to a full in-person, would they continue to stay remote, or would they elect to change to full in-person? And then let us know what rooms in each building are currently not being used as classrooms. So for example, if there's a library in an elementary school that isn't being used as a classroom, or a gymnasium, or a cafeteria, or an auditorium that can be used as classrooms, so that we can have a better idea as to how many students and staff are in each building, and do the math to find out how many students and staff we can safely distance at 6 feet apart under the CDC and the Board of Health, Peabody Board of Health guidelines, so that we can make an informed decision as to whether or not to vote to have students return to full in-person education if the trend continues in Peabody to go down with the positive COVID test rate. Tomorrow, I believe we're going to see for the 3rd consecutive week that Peabody will be in the green. Last week, there were significant testing taking place in Peabody. Even with that significant increase in testing, I believe we're going to see the positive test rate in Peabody decline and remain in the green. I will point out, again, the hypocrisy, not of the administration, and I won't point fingers, but the hypocrisy of accepting some guidance from DESE, but not all guidance from DESE. This color-coded map that Governor Baker has put out and has been adopted by DESE seems to be the holy grail. DESE has also come out with guidance that says that it is safe for students to be in school at 3 feet of social distancing. How we can adopt one policy and not the other just doesn't make much sense to me unless we put some other agenda in place other than education. Our students, our families, under the current situation, by a vast majority, are screaming for full in-person education under the circumstances that exist in Peabody. That's what I'm hearing. That's what people are contacting me about. Parents and students, particularly at the high school, are furious over, I believe it's 7 hours of in-person education per week. Teachers, some staff members and teachers broadcasting into classrooms when students are live in classrooms. That is not, from what I'm hearing from parents and students, what was promised to them when we voted to go with a hybrid model. We have in the past in Peabody, when enrollment was significantly greater than it is now, have had split sessions. So to respectfully, Dr. Vidala, to summarily dismiss the opportunity to go in person because of 6-foot social distancing, my opinion, isn't appropriate. I think we need to explore it more. We need to continue to follow the science, and we need to continue to make decisions that will allow our students and our staff to safely experience the best educational opportunities that they can. Remote days, even at the middle school, aren't, from what I'm seeing with my own children and from what I'm hearing from families who are contacting me, aren't that much different than what happened in the spring. There was a movement and a push to increase the number of days in which training could take place, and a reduction in the number of educational days from 180 to 170, so that professional development could take place, so that our students and our staff would have the opportunity to have the best educational opportunity for the 2020-2021 school year. And while I'm not pointing fingers or laying blame, and I appreciate as much hard work as has gone on both through the administration, through the staff and families, if we have an opportunity to go fully live based upon the data that we have, the science that we have, I'd like to take that opportunity to have a full and comprehensive discussion with all the data, including how many students are actually in each building, how many students we can put at 6-foot social distancing, and what, if anything, we can do to have split shifts to ensure that all students can attend school 5 days a week with the 6-foot social distancing that's being asked by the Peabody Health Department, as well as the CDC and other institutions, so that we can ensure that every student gets a free, fair, appropriate education. So I don't know if I want to make those in the form of motions, Dr. Vidal, or if you'll just be able to give us that information.
I appreciate that. If it's a motion, it's a long one, but
Yeah.
I would appreciate a long email that I could tease through.
Thanks, Doc.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, I'll go to Mr. Amico.
I won't be making this in the form of a motion, but I'll counter Mr. Hockman's address there. You know, I've had the ability and the opportunity to talk to many teachers over the last few days, certainly over the week, across the state. Fortunate, I've been in the profession for 20 years. I have contacts all over the state, friends all over the state who teach. Teachers are trying their best. They're doing their best. And they're not okay right now. Teachers are not okay. They're putting a great face forward, you know, doing the best they can, but right now teachers are not okay. This profession is not okay. Education is not okay. We're in the middle of a pandemic. I do agree, absolutely, we need to be back in buildings, but not right now. There was a football game last night in Las Vegas, a $5 billion football stadium. You could fit 10 of our schools in there 50 times over. Do you know how many people were in attendance for that football game? 0. Okay? DESE is closed. The State House is closed. Government offices are closed. Every professional sporting team stadium is closed to the public. Schools are open. We've worked so hard in Peabody. I said that earlier to Ms. Cameron. We've worked so hard since March to get where we are. We're a green community because we've worked hard. Let's stay there. I want to be in a building. I want to be in a school. I want to be in a classroom with my kids. Every teacher does. But right now, we can't. I won't be supporting pushing teachers back in until it's safe for everyone to go back to their respective workplaces, athletes, government officials, and everyone else. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Dunn?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Amico. You said a lot of what I feel. We're in the middle of a pandemic, and everyone wants the world to go back to normal, which was what we all knew prior to this pandemic. Normal is gone, and the only way to get back to normal is to follow the advice of the scientists and the medical experts on how to deal with living through a pandemic, and the goal is to live through the pandemic. They have advised us that we cannot have large gatherings, large groups. Like Mr. Miko said, nobody could go to the football game. Nobody can go to the basketball games where they're playing them down at Disney World in the bubble. If Peabody was in a bubble, we'd be in a different situation. We are not. We are in this position that we're in today because the people of Peabody have been paying attention and doing their best and following the guidelines to be able to get to this point. We need to follow through. And in one respect, I do agree with Mr. Hockman that there is hypocrisy when every business in the state is under all kinds of guidelines where they're not allowed to open 100%. And yet the schools are under incredible pressure to open 100%. And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think I could support opening our schools 100% until the rest of the world opens 100%. And by the world, I mean the state of Massachusetts. Until that happens, we have to follow the rules and cooperate with everyone else and work together to be able to survive and to be able to make it to the point where we can go back all at once and we can have everyone in the building at once. Our buildings are not built to be able to handle the volume of students that we have on the basis of the guidelines we've been given. The 6-foot distance it's universal. It's in place in every other school district except an elementary school in Nahant. That school had so much room that they were able to go back 100%. There are schools in the Berkshires that can go back 100%. And I think that that is why every school was given the ability to have the local control to determine when they were going to go back and how they were going to do it. And I think we just have to stay the course. It's very difficult. I understand that. But I appreciate everything that the staff is doing right now to be able to give our children the best education possible under the circumstances. And I think that those 3 words are very important. Under the circumstances, things are going to be different. Everyone is doing the best they can. It is not going to be perfect for everyone. But everyone needs to work together on this and stick together and try to make everything work out so that in the end we can go back to normal.
Well, thank you all for those points. Mr. Arnottis?
Well, I'll just round out because I completely agree with the opinions of my 2 colleagues. Patience is a virtue, and I think more now than ever does patience be called for right now. I mean, we started school what?
Today's day 5.
Day 5, and we're already ready to declare victory? I don't think so. If you got infected 4 days ago walking into a building, you might not even be showing symptoms yet. It might take 2 weeks. So let's pump the brakes here on waving the flag of victory and saying, let's go, let's go. Let's actually take a little time, watch this, and make sure it's right. And to the point that there are a few issues and perhaps there's some complaints, no one has actually called me, aside from a few staff members, to air some grievances. So as I always say, I'm happy to talk to anyone. But if people are seeing problems with the education their students are getting, well, let us work it out. Let us make sure we iron it out. Let's make sure it goes correctly and we get it right over this time. Let's do it smart. Let's do it right and make sure it works. Why would we rush into something? But, you know, we're talking about, all right, we're cherry picking things here. That map came from the Department of Public Health. DESE is, yes, using it apparently as an aid, but DESE is not the one who's producing the map. So I'm going to go with the Department of Public Health before I go with anything. DESE might say 3 feet. Does the Department of Public Health say 3 feet? I haven't heard 3 feet really from anyone. And if you look at the other countries that handled this pandemic significantly better than ours did from the start, they are regressing already. their schools, some schools are closing again, so there's no need to rush into anything. I'm thrilled that we're green. I hope we stay green. I hope everyone stays healthy and it all goes well. But let's make sure it works and not rush into anything. When we took that rough vote a few weeks ago, I said right then and there, I would take that vote every week if I have to, and I'm willing. In a month, let's look at and see where things are. In 2 months, let's go. We want to take a vote every week, we can do that. But let's be slow, let's be smart, and make sure everything works out well and we keep people safe. We are 5 days in. I don't understand how we can just, because we are 5 days in and nothing dramatic has happened, turn around and say, okay, let's open up 5 days a week and throw the kitchen sink at it. I don't understand that at all. I can't wrap my head around it. But to the point of let's see where things go. I'm fine watching to see where things go, but as my colleagues have said, there's not a chance I would make a vote to go 5 days until many, many other people do. So I think we have a lot of time ahead of us and a lot of work ahead of us to get back to complete normalcy, even though we all are desperately wanting it. But we need to do it right, we need to do it smart, and we need to do it safely.
Okay, thank you for everybody's comments. Oh, we have Mrs. Carpenter.
Thank you. I just want to add that, I really appreciate all the comments that my colleagues have made. I definitely respect all of your opinions. I know we've kind of been through this already, but since Mr. Hockman brought it up, we're all going to talk about it again. And every week after, probably.
There's some weight I'm willing to take, but not that, Ms. Carpenter.
So I do agree, it's a little early. Day 5, no victory, no, we're not waving any flags right now. It's definitely something, it's a process. It's something that we're going to need to keep watching. It's a little early. I think it's a little early also to kind of think about what our kids are going through. It's a learning curve. I realize that our staff had some extra training. A lot of parents didn't have that extra training. There's a lot of struggles at home with the Chromebooks, with the programs, with the process. So there's a lot of people learning a lot of things right now. So I think it's gonna be bumpy for a little while. I will say I am on the side of, yes, I want everybody to go back. That's where I'm aiming for. Right now, no. I would definitely concede to not right now. We still have a lot of things to look at. But there are some schools out there that are doing the 3 feet. They're sitting in a classroom 3 feet apart with masks on. That is happening. I want my kids back in school. I know I got a lot of phone calls. I get a lot of messages of, but there's a lot of other stuff going on right now, like I talked about. A lot of stuff about, how do you log on? How do you get into this program? So I think we need to settle that. We'll continue to watch Peabody go green. But I do want to point out to everybody that daycares, preschools, they've been open the whole time, and they are not 3 feet apart by any means. They're closer than you ever want to be with, some people. And it's working. As long as you're doing everything you're supposed to do, it's working. It can work. But I do agree. I'm not ready yet. We got a lot of things to still watch. So don't worry, Mr. Arnottis. I'm not going to push on.
Oh, every week, I'm good.
Thank you.
Mrs. Carpenter. Mr. Olympio?
Yeah. Through the chair, I'll be brief. No, I certainly want to do things in a methodical, very reasonable approach. I'm certainly on the side of getting the children back in school as soon as possible. I agree with Ms. Carpenter and Mr. Hockman. But I tell you what's bothering me the 4 or 5 days is, and I know I had respect for a lot of respect for teachers and administrators. I have more now. I feel like a lot of people are playing with one hand tied behind their back, and I see the effort and the care that the teachers are giving the students. But boy, I mean, I'm hearing and seeing students on remote days that they're finished at 11 o'clock. I see kids riding their bikes on Lowell Street at noontime. That breaks my heart. That bothers me. And we have to do everything we can. And I'm not saying next week, the week after, but like Mr. Hockman brought up a couple of good points there. I don't know, 2 months from now, 3 months from now, if we have to get creative and look at our spaces, libraries, gymnasiums, things like that, we really do have to do everything we can to get these children back, because I'm seeing it in my own house, I'm seeing it in the neighborhoods. I see kids walking around when they should be in school, and believe me, that's nobody's fault. But I'm just thinking that down the road, we really do have to start thinking outside of the box, whether it's 2 months from now, 3 months from now, so. And again, I feel bad for the teachers. I can see it that they want to teach. I think they're probably just as frustrated because they probably feel like they're already losing some children. So it's a tough situation for everybody, and I just want to give people hope. Hopefully a month from now we'll be in the white. So that's what I'm hoping for, and just, we have to be patient, be kind to everybody, and just hope for the best, and I think we'll get there. I'm confident we will, but there's some things, it just breaks my heart when I see kids 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock during the day, frustrated, throwing their hands up. Again, outside, it's nice to see them riding their bikes, but they should be in school. So if we can, again, to Mr. Hockman's point, if we can get creative in the future to try to get these kids back into the buildings safely within the guidelines, I think that's what we're going to have to do first. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Olympia. Thank you for all your comments. I have a feeling we'll be talking about this pretty much every meeting, so.
Motion to put a COVID line in the agenda.
We'll figure a way to get it
Well,
in there.
I'll take that under advisement. Okay, we'll turn back to Dr. Vidala for, I think we have one more item on your report.
Thank you. Yes, we have one more item, and then there was a late addition that we'll just add at the end. The next item is the handbooks. I know that the committee looked at handbooks, I believe, in April. We have updated the handbooks. They were emailed on the 15th. We have an elementary handbook, a middle school handbook, and a high school handbook that we'd like to put on the website pending the vote. And Mr. Hockman, did you want to do with the handbooks, do you want to do the athletic piece now, or do you want to do it during your subcommittee?
Either way, doesn't matter.
Okay.
Whatever your pleasure.
Yep, so we also, in the school committee packet is the athletic appendix to the handbook, and, during the subcommittee, Mr. Hockman can speak a little bit more about that as well, but we do have these handbooks to be approved, and then we'd like to post them on the website.
Motion to approve, motion to follow the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the student and parent handbooks for all 3 levels.
Second.
Okay, you've heard the motion for approval by Mrs. Dunn, seconded by Mr. Hockman. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll go to roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Mr. Hockman, do you want to talk about the athletic one now, or do it during the subcommittee?
We can talk about it now.
Yeah, why don't we take, take it up now.
It seems to fit in with the handbook piece.
Sure. So, thank you. And I will do it as a committee report, Ms. Mayor, if that's okay with you.
Please, go ahead.
So the Athletics and Wellness Subcommittee had an opportunity to meet about 6:10 this evening, and during that meeting, we were provided with a appendix, as Mr. Bua called it. Mr. Bua, our athletic director, was present at the meeting, as was Sharon Cameron via Zoom, the City of Peabody's health agent. The mayor was present, Dr. Vidal was present, as well as committee members Carpenter and Amico. And during that meeting, Mr. Bua presented us with the appendix policy or procedures with regard to safety and how our student athletes would be able to safely and effectively participate in Fall 1 sports. That procedure or that document will be handed out to all student athletes and their families. It talks about, among other things, different entry points to the high school campus for student athletes who are participating on various fields in the campus. It talks about a checklist and safety measures upon check-in that each coach will take for each student athlete at every practice and every competitive event. It talks about students needing to make appointments with the athletic trainer in the event that they require some sort of medical attention, and being able to make those appointments online, limiting the number of student athletes in the training room to 2, so that the student athletes would be able to maintain social distancing. I talked about the requirement to wear face masks in accordance with the policy that this school committee adopted at our last meeting. Traveling to away events will be limited to 20 members of the team. That will not limit the number of members per team, but only 20 student athletes will dress for away games so that they can all travel on one bus safely. In addition to that, another significant change is that there will, based upon a vote that was taken by the athletic directors in the Northeast Conference who were participating in Fall 1 sports, only home teams will be able to have fans in attendance so that the event can maintain the governor's protocol and executive order of no more than 50 people at any event. So Peabody fans will be able to be at home for Peabody events, but not be able to attend away events. Fall 1 sports that Mr. Bua has recommended that we participate, or excuse me, has stated in this policy that we'll participate in will be field hockey, soccer, boys and girls soccer, boys and girls cross country, and golf. There will be no football, cheer, or volleyball. Volleyball was removed from consideration due to the lack of facilities at in other schools, in other cities and towns. Some of those schools are using their gymnasiums for academic space. So we've elected to, as a conference, to have volleyball competition in the, I think we're calling it the Fall 2 season, as well as football and cheer. I think that those are the highlights. The committee took this appendix, we're calling it, because all student athletes will still be required to follow all other obligations in the student handbook that we just voted to approve, including attendance and behavior policies that have always been in place. The committee took Mr. Bua's appendix and took a vote on it and unanimously recommend the approval of that appendix to the student athletes. So I will make a motion that the Peabody School Committee follow the recommendation of the Athletic and Wellness Subcommittee and adopt the policies and procedures and protocols that Mr. Bua has presented.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hockman.
I feel like I'm a little long-winded tonight, and I'm sorry.
Thank you for that report and for that motion, seconded by Mr. Amico. On the motion, Mr. Amico?
Sure, thank you. And through the chair to Mr. Hockman, during our subcommittee, I neglected to thank you for your hard work over the last 2 weeks, as well as with Mr. Bua and Ms. Cameron and the whole staff in between. But thank you for your hard work to make this happen. There are a lot of kids and student athletes who are really going to be happy about this. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Amico. We do have a motion on the floor. Mr. Arnottis?
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Mr. Hockman, thank you for your work on this. I know we seem to disagree a little bit these days, but I know you've put a lot of effort into this along with the whole committee, and I want to commend you on that, because I also agree with Mr. Amico that this is one of the most important things that we can do right now. I think it does. Probably the closest thing to normal is letting our students play sports. This is a minor question that I have. It's about the spectators. I know there was the talk of the 50 number. My only concern would be, you might have a situation where, all right, if a parent can get there super early, going to try to get there early. I would hate to have someone, some parent rush out of work because they couldn't get out early and then get turned away, showing up. I don't want to see that happen. So is there any preventative thought? I know that's very minor, but I'm just thinking that might be something that you could see. You're going to see people rushing there to get a spot if we are counting or something.
So through you to Mr. Arnottis, before I respond to the question, I first want to state that there's a tremendous amount of respect and affection from this seat to the rest of the members of this committee. We're going to disagree on things over the course of time. That's the nature of democracy. We've done it very well. I respect and appreciate that you have all provided me with an opportunity to speak my mind, and I will always and continue to allow you not to allow you, but to listen to your mind and your thoughts, because I think it's important that we get it all out there. In regard to Mr. Amico's point first, I mean, the lion's share of the credit on this goes to Mr. Boer and Ms. Strange and Mr. Gruby and his staff, and Ms. Cameron and her staff, as well as Brenda Wolf and all the nurses, Dr. Vidala and the administrative team, Mr. Magno, a principal at the high school, the athletic directors of the Northeast Conference. I think everybody collectively came together and realized the significance that fall sports has, or athletics have, on our students, our communities, and our just demeanor. So now, in response to Mr. Hanotis' question, we did have a conversation about how to police the number, and we talked about historically where there was a period of time in Peabody where 2 tickets were given out to each student athlete to give to whomever they chose. That may be, we're gonna allow the athletic department to kind of figure that out. We did note that students who are not family members were discouraged from being in attendance, as much as that hurts, and we want to see our students supporting each other. Due to the limitations, we wanted to prioritize family members. So I think Mr. Bull was going to be able to work that out. We did talk about some flexibility. So if there's a younger sibling that's not able to remain home alone, and both parents or guardians or caregivers of the student athlete want to attend, we're going to be flexible, but we're hopeful that everyone is cooperative. So that we're asking our fans to be in the stands when there's a bleacher available and not on a fence line, to give a little more distance from the student athletes and the fans and things along those lines. So I don't know that I have a real answer or a comprehensive answer for you, but I'm confident that our staff will be able to work that out.
Thank you. I am too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for the question and for the answer. Mrs. Dunn?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm very glad to see a report in front of us. As you know, last week I couldn't support anything until I saw this in writing, and I had mentioned that the Essex North Shore had quite a presentation. I'm very happy to see this report. They're almost identical. The one thing that I would like to request and really recommend is the Peabody report has good overall guidance for everyone. The Essex North Shore has specific written guidance for each team and each sport. And I think you might want to do something like that, have it in writing so that the athletes and their families know exactly what is required of their sport. I think that if it's reported out to them verbally, people tend to hear different things. If it's in writing, it's there for all, it's clarified for everyone, and it's something you can rely on later on. If there are any discrepancies or any differences of opinion, you can refer back to that written document. So I would say they may want to look at that document again and at least have the specific sport details for those specific athletes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Dunn. Any other comments or questions? Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Roll call vote, please.
Yes.
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 The only other thing I'd like to report from the subcommittee is that I believe that the schedule for tryouts will be released tomorrow. And if all student athletes who wish to participate will look for that, I think it'll be on the high school website, or emails will go out.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hockman.
So we just have one more thing?
Yep, please.
So
Go ahead, Dr. Vidal.
the final piece is, we did get a late communication that I did want to share with everyone. So Project 351 may be an organization that many of you have heard of. The number 351 represents the 351 cities and towns in Massachusetts. And this organization identifies students in middle school as student ambassadors. And so the Higgins Middle School and Mr. Busey have been involved from day one. And we always have an ambassador. And they do service learning projects, and the kids really stay involved all the way through their senior year of high school. And it's an incredible organization. Peabody was one of the very first communities to start to participate, and Cara was a big piece of that. On Friday night, they looked at they have Service Hero Sunday, and they recognize people. And so late Friday night on Facebook, and it was posted on Twitter as well, they wanted to welcome everybody back to school, and they did a little tribute to Cara. And they wanted to dedicate the start of the school year to Cara Murtagh, and just to honor her life and her passion, and just the joy that she brought every day to every student every day. And so, you know, Ms. Dunn was able to share this with me and wanted to post this, and really wanted to just honor Kara as we go back to school. And this is something that Project 351 recognized for all the communities in Massachusetts, and we thought it was really nice. So they had this post, and then they had a little tribute to Kara. So I just wanted to put that up there and let everybody see it. I know Ms. Dunn, you know, wanted to share it and had some words as well she wanted to share.
I'm just glad the email went through. Thank you, Dr. Vidala. I knew everyone would want to see this, and I had just seen it today right before our meeting, and didn't want to wait till our next meeting in October. This was really very, very nice.
So it's shared on Facebook, on Instagram, and I did retweet it on Twitter as well. So there's links out there. So we just wanted to share that. And with that concludes the superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Vidala, and thank you, Mr. Dunn, for bringing that forward. I missed that, and yeah, I want to make sure that gets out
That was my
as
first
best we can.
PowerPoint.
So thank you. That was your what?
My first PowerPoint. Moving up in the world here. But I still hope to see those classes for parents on how to deal with the computers. I think they'll help everyone.
Thank you, Mrs. Dunn. Thank you, Dr. Vidala, for that report. Okay, let's go public participation. Dr. Vidala, do we have anybody that is looking to speak?
So we have 4 attendees. Not seeing any hands raised yet, but I know we are on a tape delay, so I'll just give them 1 minute.
Okay.
So this is what teachers call wait time. So I practice good wait time to allow plenty of people to volunteer. It looks like we don't have any volunteers at this time.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Vidala. Written communications, we don't have any written communications in the packet, but I did want to, if there was no objection, I did send this out to the school committee and some of the school administration earlier. If there's no objection, I did want to include for the record a couple of letters that were sent out. Last meeting, we had a discussion on some businesses that certainly step up for the city of Peabody. We're very fortunate. We have many businesses that have stepped up for the city of Peabody, a variety of forms and functions and services they provided to us. So a couple of companies that I wanted to recognize based on the discussion we had, and I sent a letter to them on behalf of the school committee, was to CNC Landscaping. They, for a number of years, it's a Peabody business, for a number of years have volunteered their time and efforts at the Weld School. It's helping beautify that area, in particular to the Tanya Dietitian Memorial Bench that's there. Based on that, I sent a letter. I'm going to read it real quickly. It's to CNC Landscaping, Peabody Company. Thank you for your great work thank you for the great work you and your crew did at the Weld School. The exterior of the building is the first thing that students, parents, and teachers see each day, and you made it look better than ever. And thank you for your continued work beautifying the Tanya Dietitian Memorial Bench area. We are fortunate in Peabody to have so many business owners like you who are willing to give back to their community. With school budgets already stretched thin because of the pandemic, your generosity is truly appreciated. Once again, thank you for making the Weld School look great this fall and for your ongoing commitment to the city of Peabody. And that was sent on our behalf.
Mm-hmm.
The other letter
Mr.
that was
Chairman?
sent out, yes.
I'm sorry, I
Mrs.
don't mean
Dunn.
to interrupt. Ms. Harris, if you can hang on, Ms. Harris is typing frantically. I'm going to make a motion that these be received and approved as written communications, so you'll get a copy of the letter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Dunn. The other item we are sending to Mr. Joe Fidalgo at Aggregate Industries. Aggregate Industries is a longtime Peabody company on Russell Street, and they've really stepped up in terms of community service, particularly over the last couple of years, which is terrific. They did some outstanding work at Peabody High School, beautifying the Christine Barbuto Memorial area at Peabody High School, as well as doing some beautification work at the Burke School, to the entrance to the Burke School, which is right near Aggregate Industries. And I wanted to give special note to Mr. Tom Gould, who helped organize, our city council who helped organize that effort over the Christine Barbuto Memorial. Mr. Amico, I know you were at that as well. A number of other residents helped and came, but Aggregate Industries really made that happen, which was terrific. The letter I sent out was very similar. Thank you for the outstanding work you did at the Christine Barbuto Memorial at Peabody High School, as well as for your work at the Burke School. This is very important monument and area in our city, and one which we strive to maintain year-round. We are fortunate in Peabody to have so many businesses that are willing to give back to our community. The grounds surrounding the Barbuto Memorial look better than ever, and our students, teachers, and high school staff will surely notice. Once again, thank you for your work and for your ongoing commitment to the city of Peabody. As we discussed, I thought it was just important, as we all did, just to make sure those businesses are recognized and shown the proper appreciation. So I wanted to present those, and if no objection, Mrs. Dunn, if you could make a motion to receive those.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to accept and receive those 2 letters under written communications, and that they be included for the public record. So moved.
Great. Further motion by Mrs. Dunn, seconded by Mr. Olympio. All in favor? Great, thank you. Okay, let's go to subcommittee reports. Education, Mr. Hockman?
We kind of had a conversation earlier tonight, but
Yeah,
nothing further at this time.
Yeah, that would qualify. Finance Subcommittee, Mrs. Carpenter?
Nothing to report.
Okay, School Safety, Mr. Olympio?
Nothing to report.
Okay, we'll go by Athletics and Wellness, go to Quality and Standards, Mrs. Dunn?
Nothing to report.
Okay. Liaison to Parent and Student Advisory Boards, Mrs. Dunn?
Just waiting for the election timeframe for the parents as well as for the students, and then we'll be forming up those 2 boards and working with them next month.
Terrific, thank you. Building and Grounds, Mr. Amico?
Nothing to report, thank
Okay.
you.
Special Education Parent Advisory Board, Mr. Olympio?
We'll be scheduling something in for October.
Thank you. And City Council and Legislative Delegation, Mr. Arnottis?
Nothing new to report.
Okay. I think there was a motion made at a recent City Council meeting, so I think it'll be coming our way
Okay.
on that. So when that's received, we'll take the action, but I do believe that's coming our way. Okay, new business will be handled in the regular course. Anything before we break that wanted to be brought up? All right, thank you for a very good meeting. Our next scheduled meeting, and I want to make sure we have this correct, is October 13th. Okay, and certainly if something happens in the meantime, well, we will meet, yes, knock on wood, we will meet, but October 13th, 2020. And again, thank you to all for your hard work. I think we as a committee and as administration are doing everything we can, like our teachers. Very pleased to have, again, to be working with everyone on this. Mr. Hawkins, before we
Yeah,
break?
just wanted to remind everyone out there in the listening audience that tomorrow, being a remote day, grab and goes are going to be available at all 10 schools in Peabody. Times for distribution are on the website. There'll be lunch and breakfast provided by the Food Services Department for everybody. All students are eligible to pick up breakfast and lunch. There will also be supplemental grocery bags being handed out on Wednesdays, and they will continue every Wednesday so long as we have grab and goes on Wednesday.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Hockman. All right, move to adjourn. Thank you, everyone.